I have received many questions regarding ABBA AI music. What's my opinion on the ABBA AI songs? When I have to think about it, I would say, hey, hey. So, welcome to the summer Q&A. You had some really good questions. Today's questions are divided into several sections. The first one is about personal ABBA taste. Then we have video requests, questions about the channel, as well as personal questions, and we will start with personal ABBA questions. Questions that you have about ABBA, my opinion, or some historical things. The first one comes from Rubberball Man, and the question is, do you have a favorite Frida, Agneta, Hootenanny singers, and Hepstars song from the 1960s, early 1970s? What do you think of the music of all four? This is one of my favorite questions, but you can't ask a question like this and expect me to just name one song per artist. But I try to limit it as much as possible. So, from Agneta's early work, I've got to say I really love her first two recordings, her first two singles, Jag var så kär, I Was So In Love, and Utan dig, Without You. Those come from her debut album from 1968. Also from this album there is a song called Försonade, Reconciled. It's the fifth track, also written by Agneta, and it has a haunting quality, a beautiful melancholy. This song was featured in 2008 in the Swedish horror film Let the Right One In. It plays in the background in a beautiful scene between the two protagonists. But I've also got to mention Agneta's third album and her fourth album as two of my favorites, as well as some of her German songs. I really love those. For example, Ich suchte Liebe bei dir, Geh mit Gott, Tausend Wunder. And I've got to mention that Agneta also released singles between 1973 and 1974 that were not released as part of any album, and virtually all 6 songs from those 3 singles I really adore. One of them is En sång om sorg och glädje. When it comes to Frida, I continue to mention Frida's debut album from 1971. It has become one of my all-time favorite albums from Frida in general. The songs Barnen sover, her interpretation of the song Lycka, the song Suzanne are some of my favorites. Frida also has some beautiful singles-only releases between 1971 and 1972, 2 songs with Lars Berghagen, other singles like Min egen stad, the Hepstars song which Frida sang and which was her very first real big success. And those songs that really lead the way to ABBA, because all members of future ABBA are featured in the background on those Frida solo songs from 1972. Those were recorded just before ABBA recorded People Need Love. And I need to mention Frida's Christmas recordings, the 2 songs that she recorded in 1972 as well for a Christmas album which was produced by Björn and Benny. Those 2 songs from Frida for Christmas are 2 of her very best recordings ever. The Hootenanny Singers, Björn's band before ABBA, I adore many of their songs as well. Their very first single, Jag väntar vid min mila, or a live recording of the song 500 Miles. I really love those. Also some songs from their second album and their 2 German songs. Nimm dein Banjo dir zur Hand is one of them, and other songs from the Hootenanny Singers, Baby, Those Are the Rules. The Björn solo song, Raring, I really love. And one of their later songs from 1971, Aldri Me, is one of my favorites. And now when it comes to the Hepstars, their second album, there are so many great songs, especially on the A side of that album. The song No Time, with lyrics by Björn, is beautiful. The Birds in the Sky, Consolation, Sound of Eve, Isn't It Easy to Say, one of their most beautiful songs. The first composition by Björn and Benny, Isn't It Easy to Say. I really like the Hepstars song Malaika. And then the entirety, this entire album from 1968, it's been a long, long time. This is certainly one of those really forgotten treasures. This is beautiful sunshine pop. They recorded this album in London. The songs are extremely good, and the recordings are tremendous, I think. There is some sort of psychedelia to some of the recordings. And I highly rank this album next to the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper and the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds as the Hepstars' version of that kind of music. This is one of my absolute favorites from the Hepstars. But there is also a song from their final album with Benny, a Björn and Benny composition, which is called A Flower in My Garden, as well as a Benny composition written together with Lasse Berghagen called Suddenly Tomorrow is Today. Those two are also some of my favorites from the ABBA members, and Benny's band Hepstars, and those are some of my favorites from the ABBA members' solo years before ABBA. This was a really good question. I took a long time now to answer it, but I hope maybe some of you recognize some of the titles or will have a listen to some of them and see how good the members of ABBA's music was even before the group came together, all the 4 members came together as a group. Staffan Johnson wants to know, what do you see as ABBA's greatest achievement? This is one of the hardest questions to answer. I didn't think about it too much. In the spur of the moment, the first thing that comes to mind is, of course, obviously and probably the simplest answer, the music, but also in terms of the longevity, because if you think about it, I think their greatest achievement is being able to be this kind of active band or active musical force without really being active as a band, as an entity, and that's because of their music. I discovered it in 2004 when they were not together for 30 years, and now it's 22 years later, and here we are. And I think their music is as alive as never before, or at least very much celebrated. And that's an incredible achievement. So it all goes back to the music, to the spirit and the magic that came together when all 4 worked together. Another one of their greatest achievements, I would think, is their reunion and the comeback, which ultimately, to me, somehow changed their legacy to an even more positive, more complete state. It made it feel like here they still are 50 years later, even though there was a break of 40 years as an active entity. But that comeback put it all together in a very special way, and they're still here, and so they have some of the greatest musical achievement ever, for me personally. And I would like to ask this question to all of you as well. What do you see as ABBA's greatest achievement? I'm very curious to read about that. Lucy Bourne wants to know, what are your favorite solo projects from the ladies, and why do you think they may not have had the same level of success with all their work as they did together with ABBA? Some of my favorite solo work, apart from those solo recordings from before ABBA, are the albums from Frida and Agneta from 1975, Agneta's I Stand Alone, My Coloring Book, A, Frida's album, Djupa an der Tag. Her final album to date is turning 30 years old this year, and is one of those fine achievements. And I think if that's the final album of Frida, then that's one beautiful final work. But we will come to that later as well. Alain wants to know, hi Bobby, what are your ABBA's favorite outfits? It's one of the most important questions. Personally, like the ones they wore during the 1977 Australian tour. Second question, what is your favorite video? Mine is Summer Night City. Take care. Thank you, Alain. Favorite outfits? In my early years as a fan, to be honest, I never noticed their outfits in terms of being that extraordinary. I didn't think they were normal, but I just didn't think anything strange about the outfits. And when I have to think about it, I would say all of their outfits for their concert tours were beautiful and very fitting to each individual tour. So I agree, I really love the 77 outfits. I also adore the 1979 outfits, but I also really love the 1975 concert tour costumes. And my favorite music video is The Day Before You Came from 1982. And if we don't think about their regular music videos, I would say one of the most important videos, which is part of their video discography, if you will, came in 2004. Our last video ever. And that one was my first encounter with ABBA. So that is very important on a personal level. But speaking about the music videos, the original ones to their original songs, of course, that's The Day Before You Came. But I also really like the music video for One Man, One Woman. Hello Bobby, my question, where was the warehouse location in which the Under Attack video was filmed? Can you visit this place? Greetings from Germany. The warehouse for Under Attack, and this I found out from the Ruffum website, was filmed in a southern part of Stockholm called Hammarbyhamnen, which is Hammarby Harbor. So that warehouse was located right in front of a harbor that used to be an industrial area in the southern part of Stockholm. And Ruffum was very lucky to have visited this place in the past, many years ago. There are some photographs on his website. I would like to go there, and I'm sure that's one of those locations which we will visit together one day. But I can tell you right away that the warehouse does not exist any longer, and that area looks completely different today. So unfortunately, that moment in music video history is gone. But it's always very curious, especially if things have changed. For me, very curious to go there and see what has changed and how it looks today. So we might go there one day. Another question, when I Am the City was released for the first time, did Björn and Benny do some work on it before releasing it? Or is the version we received just as they left it in 1982? So in the case of I Am the City, that's exactly the version that they left in 1982 in the archive. They didn't have to mix it in 1993, they didn't have to change anything. That's the way it was left in 1982. But when it comes to ABBA's archival release from 1994 from the box set Thank You for the Music, the song Put on Your White Sombrero was changed or mixed for that release, and that recording that was released of the song contains additional overdubs of a few castanets and a trumpet fanfare, which were probably made on Benny's synthesizer in 1994 for that release. And the release of the early version of Thank You for the Music on the same box set is also different to the original mix from the archives because they removed the Polymoog synthesizer chords and then released it as the Doris Day version. So those two songs were really mixed for release in 1994. But I Am the City remained the very same as they left it in 1982 in the archives. Now, I have received many questions regarding ABBA AI music. Far too many, to be honest. What's my opinion on the ABBA AI songs that are being released these days and weeks on YouTube, I would think. Some of you ask, I've recently come across an ABBA AI YouTube channel. The vocals are scarily convincing, especially Frida. Oh my gosh, some of the songs are actually very catchy and I hate myself because I hate the idea of what this is. And I've downloaded a couple. I know it's all fake, the music arrangements are very simplistic, but if they improve, like the vocals have, what are your views on this kind of thing? And do you think ABBA would approve or have a cease and desist approach? Another question, lately there's a huge lot of AI songs impersonating famous music acts. The situation with AI ABBA songs is already out of hands. Day by day, they turn up faster than mushrooms. Have you heard any of these? And there were more questions about the ABBA AI music. So, I have not heard any of those. We may talk about it in a standalone episode as well, if that's something you would like to talk about. Now, some questions about ABBA's newest album. I was criticized by one individual for calling this ABBA's new album, still after 5 years, but I think I will continue to call it their newest work, because it is. Although it is celebrating 5 years this year already. One question is, what happened to the last 2 songs from the Voyage album? Will we ever hear that? And also, thanks for all the ABBA news and the stories you tell. There are 2 songs that ABBA recorded for the Voyage album which were never released, 2 outtakes from those sessions. And we know that because Benny, at the end of 2021 on German television, talked about them. And he was quite positive about them and said they would need more work in the studio, mainly by Benny himself.
We never really finished them. I don't know. We played it all and we said, that shouldn't be in now, and not that one. It's sort of good stuff, but not really finished. It takes more work, for me at least, in the studio.
That's the last time we heard anything positive about those 2 Voyage outtakes. The fact is, 1 or 2 years later, by now, ABBA apparently changed their mind about those outtakes, and they do not wish to discuss them at all. So that's the situation with those 2 songs. I don't know anything more than anyone else. And that's about it, unfortunately. What is your personal opinion of the Shinola clips in the Voyage show? So, in ABBA's Voyage show in London, there are two songs, Eagle and Voulez-Vous, which are screened with some animated story. And we don't see ABBA themselves during those two songs or the avatars, but we see those animated clips done by Shinola. And they tell a story of some mystical world, some fantasy elements, a protagonist who is on a quest to find something, and in the end is finding something. I think, as far as I remember, in the shape of four big figures or head figures, which are the members of ABBA. That's the story of those two clips, and what is my personal opinion about those? I enjoyed them when I watched the show. I liked them. I was kind of intrigued by the fact that ABBA decided to do this as part of the show. And even back then, when I did my review about the show 4 years ago, I think I was kind of reviewing those as something typical ABBA, something you wouldn't expect, something that you don't really know what to think of or to do with. So I liked that. I liked the mythical aspect, maybe something Scandinavian about it. Not sure, it's a feeling I cannot really describe. But I was positive about the Shinola videos. Hi, Bobby's brother. Do you agree that the Voyage show will soon need a complete reimagining with more realistic animation, facial muscles, pupil dilation, sweat, live vocals, etc.? My first reaction to that question was, no, I don't think the Voyage show will soon need a complete reimagining. Simply for the fact, not from an artistic standpoint, but for the fact that the show is extremely successful, and so I wouldn't see any reason to change too much. But then I had another thought about especially the close-ups that you see during the show, and in that case especially the eyes of the members of ABBA, their avatars, in close-up on the big screen. And I would think that that is one aspect, and I think I even mentioned that back then in my review, which I think could need some improvement in terms of looking even more realistic and more alive. But I think that is one of those aspects about avatars that makes it obvious what it is in the end, that it is something which is not alive. Those eyes in close-up give it away. Maybe that's something they can work on in the future, in the coming years, in general, not only for the show. So, but other than that, I think the show was good, was terrific, and works very well apparently for the audience. It's almost sold out every day, and they have several shows on some days. Do you think there will be anything new or special released for the 5th anniversary of the Voyage album? I'd like to be positive about these things, but the fact is that a few weeks ago, Jörel Hanser, when she was at the fan club event in Stockholm, and she talked about some future ABBA releases. And I think they mentioned that there will be a re-release of the Voyage album for the 5th anniversary, but it would not include anything new. So that's what I have heard, and we will see what will come of that. Hello there, I would like to know, is there going to be an ABBA Live 1977 album? That's the same situation, but much more positive, I would think. On that event, Jörel and Mia Segelson from Universal, they were talking about the prospect of a live album from ABBA's tour from 1977 to be released next year for the 50th anniversary. And they said that they are right now looking through the tapes and deciding if there is something they could release. It sounded quite promising and positive, and I do have a video or two on this channel discussing this. I would think we have good chances that next year there will be a live album from 1977, but nothing is confirmed, nothing was announced, but they talked about the possibility and that they are open to release something. Now, about Agneta and Frida's solo and the future about that, do you think we will see any more solo work from the ladies and potentially more interviews or appearances? Another question came similar: do you think Frida will ever record another solo album, maybe a collection of her favorite songs? And another one: what do you think are the chances of Agneta recording again? I think the chances for both ladies to do another solo album are good. I'm positive about that. In terms of Frida, as I said before, her final album is from 1996. That's 30 years down the road, and she did some recordings here and there, some singles, but never a full album again. So maybe another now late work. I see that as a possibility, definitely. And the chances for Agneta to record again, as I said, I feel are positive as well. I'm optimistic about that. I wouldn't rule it out. And that's the same thing that Agneta herself said 3 years ago when she released her new single, Where Do We Go From Here, and the A+ anniversary album project. She said that she doesn't want to close any doors. So that's one official answer to that question. So the question about the location videos on the channel, that question was asked by a few people. I have done many, and I would say beautiful location videos in the past. I really enjoy doing them, putting them together and visiting those places. Some of them are like time stood still and still look the same, feel the same. And a few of them, as I said before, have completely changed. But it's always interesting. And I have visited places where ABBA filmed their music videos, where they recorded the songs, the studios, even the places and houses where the members of ABBA used to live in the 70s and 80s. And I have visited those locations where ABBA took the photographs for their album sleeves, for the artworks of their studio albums. Most of them. So there is one, for example, to that question, will there be more location videos? There is one location I would love to go again. I've been there a few years ago, but to capture it on video and to create this location video for it, because this is one of those historical places, not only in terms of ABBA, but it's actually a historical place. And that is the atelier where ABBA took the photograph for their final album for 40 years, The Visitors. That's something I would like to go to. And I can also tell you that I do have some more location videos coming up. One of them is quite a big one, because I visited Jönköping in Sweden, which is, of course, the childhood place from Agneta Fältskog. I was there for 1 or 2 nights for a few days, and I visited all those places where Agneta used to be as a child, growing up, the school, the home. I was even at the working place where Agneta was as a telephonist for a car dealership, where she used to work during that time when she was also singing with the orchestra and trying to break through with music. But she wasn't sure about it, of course, so she was working there. I was at that working place, went inside, and I also visited the church in the place of Jönköping where Agneta sang in the choir. And I was at a school in Jönköping where there is a piano which is Agneta Fältskog's piano, which is her very first piano, and she donated it to the school. So I took many videos of the Jönköping place and all those places of Agneta's childhood, and that's something that is coming on the channel. But also I do have locations that really don't have anything to do with ABBA, especially filming locations for films, and one of them is for the serious comedy show Mr. Bean. That was just a very personal wish that I wanted to do. I put that on the channel back then, and that video turned out until this day to be by far the most successful video on this channel. It has over 2 million views, my Mr. Bean location video. So I took some videos of more filming locations from Mr. Bean, because many subscribers came from that Mr. Bean video, and they've been waiting for 2 or 3 years for new Mr. Bean locations, and I did something in the meantime, but there will be something else as well coming. So I love doing these location things, and there will be more of those and more with ABBA and Jönköping, Agneta coming. Alexio Verdo asked, after that interview with Jörgen Elofsson, is there any possibility of you interviewing any ABBA member, even by phone call? I know you've briefly met both Benny and Björn in the past. I also suspect that Frida is aware of your channel, and Agneta has also confirmed that she is fond of your channel too. If yes, then which ABBA member would you feel more comfortable to interview first? And also from someone else, similar question, your interview with Jörgen Elofsson was excellent. I know it must take a lot of time and work behind the scenes to set these, but it would be great to see more interviews with any of the people who worked with ABBA. Thanks for all your wonderful work. It's incredible that there is still such a hunger for ABBA news and information 50 years down the line. I agree with that last statement, and it blows my mind, and it is blowing my mind. Even to see these requests, of course, on a personal basis, but and we are here with all this excitement, still talking and hoping and wishing about ABBA things. So that interview I have done with Jörgen Elofsson 3 years ago is on a personal level my personal great achievement. For me personally, that was a beautiful moment for me to visit the studio and to talk to Jörgen about his work with Agneta. And that interview was done because it was I was asked for it. So yes, I would love to do interviews for the channel for people who worked with ABBA. I do have some in my mind, And I would also love to do the same with the members of ABBA themselves, of course. And I don't have, if I think about the question, which one I would feel more comfortable with, I don't have an answer for that, because I would feel comfortable to do an interview with any member of ABBA for this channel, be it Björn, Frida, Agneta, or Benny. I would love to do that. The thing is, I don't reach out to, of course, not to the members of ABBA to do that. And I have not yet reached out to people who worked with ABBA to ask for an interview on the channel. Not for any specific reason, it's just not something I have done so far, but I do think about it, and I have been thinking about it. It's much easier if, like in that very lucky case with Jörgen Elofsson, for me it's easier if they approach me and ask me, and of course there was a reason for that interview, because they promoted the A+ album, so there was something to promote. But I'm absolutely open to do it. Of course, very much so, and I would love to do it. Helen asked, have you been following the World Cup, the football World Cup this year? Yes, I have watched almost every match. And another question, what about those Taylor Swift t-shirts? I've seen you wear a couple of times in your videos. Can you tell more? P.S. Please excuse my imperfect English. No, that your English is very well, very fine. And I love reading and hearing from you. This question came from Alexio Vero as well. What about those Taylor Swift t-shirts? Well, I bought them 2 years ago when I was at a concert for Taylor Swift, and actually went to 2 concerts back to back, one night and then the other night, and that was quite something. And I've got to say, the one thing that really stuck in my memory from those concerts was the whole environment with the Taylor Swift fans, the Swifties, all the people, girls and families who came together, and there was an incredible sense of peace, which it still makes me very emotional when I think about it. So that was a great experience and memory, and that was where I got my Taylor Swift t-shirt, and that's a story about those. And that is the end of our Q&A, and I was very happy to do this and to read all the questions, and it is nothing personal, as always, if I did not select your question of choice. Every one of those I really enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed this as well. I hope you had some new thoughts that you can put down in the comment section below. Maybe some follow-up questions or some follow-up thoughts about things that we discussed now in this Q&A, summer Q&A. As I said, one of the questions quite at the beginning was, what do I think is ABBA's greatest achievement? I tried to answer it. It's very hard, and maybe that's something I will come back to as well. But I would like to hear from you about that one, or about anything else that you thought about during our Q&A today. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon again on the channel. Alright, until then, hej då!